But to kick this off, let me start with the first story that is very newsworthy right now, which is that Tesla has just announced that they're going to be purchasing $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin and also be accepting it for transactions with Tesla in the future. Steve, I'll start with you on this one because Elon Musk has said that he's doing this to diversify and maximize the returns of Tesla's cash on the balance sheet. Spence and Mike, I get to you in a second to get the cryptocurrency perspective on this. But Steve, what's your take from an equity perspective of what's going on?
This is really interesting because, you and I have done podcasts a couple times talking about specific capital allocation decisions. And one of those decisions is the decision to just leave cash in cash and maybe not necessarily put that to work as far as maybe returning capital to shareholders through dividends or reinvesting in the business. But this kind of throws an interesting wrench in the thought that cash can sit there idle. And rather than just leaving it in cash, they're taking a portion of what they have and putting it in Bitcoin, which is really just a really interesting decision. I mean, and keeping in mind, we're looking at Tesla's market cap just short of 800 billion. So it's not like Tesla is betting the farm on this, but it was cool to kind of watch it all unfold, and similar to what MicroStrategy has done in purchasing Bitcoin for part of their balance sheet. And I think it was kind of birthed out of a conversation Elon Musk and MicroStrategy's CEO had on Twitter several weeks ago. Where he was saying, are such large transactions even possible? And the MicroStrategy CEO responded and said, yes, we just bought 1.3 billion in Bitcoin over the last several weeks. I'd be happy to share my playbook offline. Sure enough, here we are a few weeks later, and this is what happened. But maybe we add sort of the sixth capital allocation decision to those primary ways that you can put money to work and build the value of your business and diversify your balance sheet. So kind of cool to watch, and should be really interesting to watch other companies potentially pile on later on, but kind of an early adopter in that stage.
I think that is really interesting what MicroStrategy did. Like you mentioned, Steve, beginning last summer, MicroStrategy at first put $425 million into buying Bitcoin, put it on the balance sheet. It went from cash to being a long-term investment, increased quite a bit in value over those next 8 months versus where it is today. And so that created a lot of value for shareholders, right? And we see MicroStrategy 9 months ago was trading at $118 a share. It's now over $1,000 a share as people are saying, hey, what an innovative move. What a creative way for somebody to get out ahead of this. Mike, you and Spence, I'd like to bring this to you next, because this is kind of, like Steve said, a big capital allocation decision. What does it mean that corporations are now actually buying Bitcoin to put on their balance sheet?
Yeah, well, first I need to start off by plugging the value of the content we did a few months ago. You actually asked me, do I think Elon's going to allocate to Bitcoin? And my kind of almost an exact quote, I think I said something like, well, Saylor and Elon both really like Twitter. They're kind of in orbit, right? He may do it. And then sure enough, right, here we are. So I think of this new kind of chapter that we're seeing in Bitcoin adoption is there's a new arc of persona that's adopting Bitcoin. And, the reason Bitcoin makes sense for Elon and Saylor and many other CEOs is a similar reason to why it made sense for a lot of early adopters like Mike and I. So when you think about why, Mike and I wanted to allocate cash to Bitcoin as a retail investor and trader way back when, right? It's a similar thought process on a much, much bigger scale. So I think we're looking at another arc of adoption as we continue to charge ahead to mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. So that's kind of my general take on this trend that we're seeing as CEOs allocate cash reserves to Bitcoin. Mike,
how about it, Mike? Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, so I guess it can't be understated. Like Spence said, MicroStrategy seemed to be the first major player in the scene, and that was in August of last year. And they didn't dip their toe in the water. They put almost all of their cash into Bitcoin and made waves across all of, equities and corporations across America. And, I was a bit skeptical at first. It seemed kind of headline grabby. But Michael Saylor really seems to, he's gone on a total media tour since then and is a diehard Bitcoiner now. And he's preaching the gospel and recruiting others. And It wasn't long after that that Square, Jack Dorsey, they allocated $50 million. And so a much smaller position, much more prudent, some may say. But, it's always, you have the first quote unquote crazy guy, Michael Saylor, to go all in. But then as soon as you have, another one follow suit, it really kind of gives some credence to this idea. And you're no longer, a de-risk is from a reputational standpoint. And we've known for a long time that Elon is a crypto curious. He tweets about Bitcoin, Dogecoin over the years. And, it was probably only a matter of time for a lot of us in the crypto community, especially after a couple of weeks ago, he changed his Twitter profile to just say Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. So this is very on brand, I think, for Elon and Tesla in general. Like you said, it's not, I think what it equated to about 10% of their cash on hand, which some still find, is pretty big. But it's not like Tesla needed to do this. Or, in the SEC report filing, they said, hey, we're trying to de-risk some of our diversify our assets and de-risk a bit, which, is certainly true in a sense. But Tesla is a narrative-driven kind of stock at this point. And I'm sure, purchasing Bitcoin and getting your name attached to Bitcoin doesn't hurt either.